Club YouTube channel. Today we're doing an interview with Ashleigh Duncan regarding her new book, A Stripper Called Bambi.
Hiya,
Hi Ashleigh, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you ever so much for
Good.
joining us.
No problem at
Especially as
all.
I know you're running off on holiday soon, so it's all a little bit rushed.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, that's okay. I'm really glad that you're here. So yeah, let's just start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm a counsellor, psychotherapist. I've been in private practice for around 10 years. I'm very passionate about personal development, all things wellness. Um, Dabble in a wee bit of yoga while swimming, that type of thing. I'm a mum. I have a dog, love my dog. And I also have aside the counselling clinic, I have a wellness centre as well. So we have infrared sauna, salt therapy, because I'm very much about the holistic approach of living. And so both businesses complement each other.
Fantastic. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a little Shih Tzu called Rufus.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, he actually features in the book.
Oh, fantastic. Interestingly, I have two spaniels called Max and Chester. Occasionally
Oh,
they're here with me, and in the last interview, they actually featured in that. They weren't meant to, but they decided they were going to join in.
oh, very good.
But they're not here with me today. They're at home, so yeah, they're being looked after by my wife.
Yeah, they're so pure dogs, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think everybody should have a dog. It's great therapy.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to see them being brought into therapy as well.
It is.
So many people bringing them into the therapy room because they are so therapeutic and
Yeah,
regulating.
yeah. I've occasionally done some walk and talk therapy where clients have actually brought their own dogs, so
Oh,
that's
really?
quite good.
Fab.
Yeah, so my office is set against some fields out the back here and really lovely dog walking
Beautiful.
areas along the river. So that's really quite nice if we can
Oh, lovely.
when we actually get some sunshine.
Yeah, very soothing.
Yeah, incredible. So
Good.
I suppose we better move on to your book, actually, why we're
Yes.
here. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your book. What led you to write it?
So my book is called A Stripper Called Bambi, and there's been a lot of hype about the name. Obviously, the name's a little bit controversial. And one of the most common questions that I've been asked about the book is, "Are you Bambi?" I am not Bambi. I was never Bambi. But that caused a little bit of a hype. But the book does refer to a stripper called Bambi. And the reason that is because my first taste of self-development when I was 18, I was living in Ibiza and I worked behind the bar in a strip club, and a stripper called Bambi gives me a book by the Dalai Lama, The Art of Happiness.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
I still have the book like 20 odd years on, and I absolutely fell in love with Buddhism and all things personal development and self-help. So that's not the only reason it's called A Stripper Called Bambi. The book is about shedding societal expectations, undressing from limiting beliefs and stepping into your authentic self. So I thought the name was very fitting for the undressing as well
Yeah,
as,
yeah, I
you
like that.
know,
Yeah.
a reflection of the actual stripper called Bambi.
Yeah, it is a great title actually. It was
Thank you.
before we met and when somebody sent the link to show me your book, I was like, "Is this a self-help book?" Oh, yes, it is. Okay.
Yeah,
I,
I've had no negative feedback, but most people are saying, you know what, I love the title. The
I,
title's
was- I
really
think it's brilliant.
catchy.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I think it's really it grabs your attention as well because there's so many books out there
absolutely.
that have
Yeah.
a more vanilla title, shall we say? So yeah,
And
no,
it does, and in the book, it does explain why the title is called that too, and a little bit about the exchange with Bambi.
oh, fantastic. So we spoke briefly before about your kind of writing method, and we'll come on to that because it's quite different to other people's. But what was your favourite part of actually writing the book and putting everything together?
The absolute freedom of it. I just kind of when I started writing, I just couldn't stop. So it didn't take very long to put the book together because I really kind of focused on it. I actually I slept for 14 hours at the weekend there because I'd been so, you know, through into everything that it's all just caught up on me. But it was the freedom of it and just being able to put my thoughts to paper. I actually haven't read the book. I just sent it to an editor and thought, "Right, you let me know what you think," and they thought it was fabulous. And then I sent it to a publisher, sent it to two publishers, and two people accepted it. Obviously, I went down the self-publishing route. I just thought I'd have a wee bit more control over that. But yeah, I really, really did enjoy it.
Wow, that's good. Now, this is the bit that's quite interesting. It's slightly different to the normal answer I get. We spoke about this before we started the recording, which was how long did it actually take you to write this, Ashleigh?
It took about 3 weeks to write it. Now, saying that,
Just incredible.
once I get something into my head, I can't stop. So, going through the night, just kind of 8, 9 hours a day, just getting really stuck into it. Then there was obviously a bit of an editing process and the publishing process as well. So I think the book was actually started in June, around June. Um, but yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. So, how many hours a day did you spend writing once you got into it?
There was points where it was maybe about 8 hours a day, because I remember my partner having to come over and be like, look, he kept feeding me and making me tea and things. And then there was a point where he was like, right, you need to step away from that. And we actually had to get, those blue light glasses
Yes. Yeah.
because my eyes were sore from writing. And yeah, so it's hard to say how many hours we put into it, but it was all probably done in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow, that's incredible. It's actually funny you saying about that about your partner coming over and making sure you're okay because I think I mentioned to you briefly before we started. My wife is also an author, and there's occasions where I have to go knock on her office door in the house and be like, "Are you okay? Are you still alive? Oh, good. I'll just shut the door
Yeah,
in a few hours."
because I think the book talks about being present, and I think one of the most things for me about being present is actually writing. When you're in other people's heads all the time, there's not often room for your own thoughts and feelings. Does that make sense? So
Perfect.
I find a lot of freedom in writing. I've been writing for about 3 years for different local and national publications and get so much healing and almost personal therapy from that. So to be able to put that in a book has just been incredible for me personally.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think a lot of people find that, don't they? My wife actually started her journey. She has another full-time career, but she started her writing journey during lockdown because she wanted,
Oh, very good.
and it was kind of therapeutic process for her, and she
Yeah.
started and never stopped fundamentally.
And that's it.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
that's it. It just takes that one moment, doesn't it? Just
Yeah,
that one moment. And then it just kind of develops from there.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Incredible.
so you mentioned the publishing process before. So you self-published, did you?
I self-published and I used a publisher, if that makes sense. So a publisher without an agent.
Okay.
And he did all the kind of, the stuff that I couldn't possibly do, all the putting it on Amazon, putting it to the bookstores, all putting it together basically. Found the process really easy. If I was doing it myself, I don't believe that I could have. So I'm very, very grateful for the publisher.
Wow, that's incredible. And was that easy for you to find a publisher, or did just how?
It was, well, I'm very lucky because I've got a few connections in that world. The publisher became recommended to me, and the an editor that I know, we spoke about the best way that would be for me, and she encouraged it. So I'm very grateful for this lady as well. So she encouraged me to go down that route and give a few suggestions that I wouldn't have thought of. So I've been very lucky to have really supportive people around me. I was lucky enough then for a guy who'd wrote a book through this publisher. He gave me a call and kind of gave me a wee bit of advice on it. So yeah, again, all very simple, and I felt very supported during the whole thing.
Fantastic. So I mean, you seem somebody that's found this process really quite therapeutic and quite, I was going to say easy, but I don't think it's ever easy. So gentle, would that be?
No, I think yeah, gentle. It obviously did come. It was tiring, and as I said, my body literally shut down this weekend.
Oh yeah,
Um, I run on about 6 to 7 hours sleep. I wake up at 5 every morning naturally. And like I was not getting out of bed this weekend. So it took out of me more than what I probably was aware at the time. Um so it's a good time that I'm going on holiday tonight.
absolutely. Yeah, no, you've timed it perfectly, haven't you? And were
Yeah.
you still working in private practice while writing?
I was, but with it being the summer again, divine timing, it being the summer, we're quieter.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
work quite long term with clients. A lot of my clients will take the month of July off. So doing a wee bit here and there, and it just all worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I have to admit, you and I have been in private practice about the same amount of time, and I quite enjoy the summer holidays now.
Yeah, you get a little bit of a break, don't
Yeah,
you?
lets me do a little bit of admin and housekeeping as well, and actually, yeah, sort a few things out. So no,
Yeah, it's nice. It's just a gentler energy, isn't it?
yeah, it is. It is a nice time. Yeah. So, what advice would you give to anybody wanting to write a book or anybody that was thinking about having a go?
I think seek on the support of other writers and people in that industry. Trust the process, trust yourself. Kind of, my advice is probably different than most people's, is write it. Just write it. You don't need to reread it. Just throw it out there, wing it, see what happens. Um, and just trust yourself.
You strike me as somebody with that kind of energy. If you're like, I'm going to do this, so I'm just going to do it.
Just gonna do it. And you know what? Like if somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. You
Oh,
know, it's
absolutely.
fine.
Yeah, it's something I've said in interviews. I say to my wife, anything you produce is never going to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing, you know, the book's about authenticity. So it's me being authentic. And I kind of regretted getting it edited because my copy, there was a few spelling mistakes and a
yeah,
few and I kind of wish that I hadn't have actually edited it and I had to just put it out there to say like this is how it was wrote.
yeah.
But I'm not too sure how that would have went down. So we're edited, but there's maybe about 30 copies unedited that I've gifted to people and sent out.
Oh, I love that.
So
That's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, but actually, you're absolutely right. You said that's about authenticity, and that's authentic, isn't it?
yeah, 100%. So it's, you know, when you read it, it's not massively clinical. It's very easy to digest, but it is a very authentic story.
And you said actually again before we started recording that you wanted something that clients could read that would give them that wasn't too clinical or wasn't too heavy,
Yeah,
and that can be a problem, can it sometimes? Because I'm somebody that loves to recommend books for my clients,
yeah,
but some of the stuff I read I wouldn't recommend to them, and I have done in the past, and they just don't.
yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, a lot of people, you know, the brain capacity is low. So in this book, there's little sort of, you know, one of the chapters is called Observe, Don't Absorb. So there's little kind of phrases that will hopefully plant seeds. There's little teachings, there's creative stories. So it's not a very, yeah, there's some parts it is quite serious, but there's a lot of catchy sort of things that might stick and might help people in their time of need. Plus, it's a really digestible, easy to read book. I think every chapter has a different teaching, and each chapter is about 5 pages. So you know you can read 5 pages on a train.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
5 pages a day. You do that for a couple of days. You've read a self-development book.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's aimed at people that maybe do have low capacity and that just need a little bit of support.
And I like that. And interestingly, so I work just outside of Oxford, so I get quite a few students, and obviously that's a difficult time in a lot of people's life, being away from family
Yeah, of course.
and struggling to absorb that information of whatever course they might be reading. And it's like, just do one page. Just
Yeah,
read one page. One page is enough. Start there and build from that.
that's it. But that's how everything's built, isn't it? It's just one step.
Yeah, it is. It's just one step, isn't it? And that's
Yeah,
that problem we have with human beings is going, well, there's the end goal. I want to be there, but
yeah,
let's think about how we get there.
absolutely. Stay at one before we get to 20, don't we?
Yeah. So actually, I'm kind of this is a question that wasn't on the list, so please feel free not to answer it. But
Oh.
what inspired you to actually do the book? What got you going? What was the sort of moment of
So I used to teach Reiki and different like kind of workshops and things like that. So the reason that I got into self-development was through my own trauma. And a period of mine, it touches on this gently in the book, doesn't go into my own personal experiences, just gently. So through my own kind of dark periods, I found all these different healing modalities and the things that worked for me. So whenever I was teaching and I would have shared some of my story with people and people find it interesting, and I just kept hearing the same phrase, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I didn't want to because I kind of thought, it's actually a wee bit egotistic for me to write a book about me. And I did sort of step away from it. And then as I developed in my writing, I kind of thought, do you know what? The book doesn't need to be about me. It needs to be about the lessons that I've learned. So it will introduce why I've kind of talked about this lesson or how I learned the lesson, but it doesn't go into much about me personally. It shares some of my stories and lessons as well as combine it with some of my clients' journeys and different things like that. So
Um,
that's basically how I got to write it. And then I set it down for ages and then it just came into my head in June. It's like, I'm going to write this now. And I sat down and I just didn't stop.
I really like that. That's a really good answer. Actually, that's quite interesting because when I speak to other people, people that haven't written anything yet or thinking about it, that's sometimes a stumbling block. What you've just said there about either being egotistical or feeling maybe unnatural for a therapist to be talking about themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, and actually, I quite like the way you've just answered that because that maybe is the mental block that some people struggle with.
absolutely. Yeah. And it is, I think as a therapist, what I think a lot of people relate to is your vulnerability and your humanity and authenticity. And, the compassion, obviously, the empathy, and all that combined is so healing. So to be able to see a therapist as human, I think people really relate to.
It's really interesting that you say that because I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So as well as a psychotherapist, I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm a big fan of the teachings of a guy called Milton Erickson, who was a hypnotherapist, and he actually
Yeah.
used a lot of his own um, personal stories in his therapy work. Yeah,
So would I, yeah.
yeah, and so do I because of that. Because it's actually like, well, if you
Yeah.
relate to this on a genuine level of actually, I've experienced something similar to this. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, and I think it's quite fitting for what we're talking about today, is that it took me 4 times to pass my counselling
Did it?
qualification because I couldn't write.
Wow.
So we had like an SSP, which is the study of supervised practice, and I just couldn't get it. I could not get what they needed me to get. And it was just because I couldn't write. So I was a really good therapist, had all my placement hours, really successful with clients, and then just could not get this bit of paper. So I could have possibly failed in the fact that I couldn't write. But it talks about this in the book that I had like a limited self belief because of my school days. So I don't know, was it that mental blockage there? But I laugh about it now because I'm now a published writer. But I could have failed my counselling. I got it on the last one because I couldn't write.
Oh wow. Okay. And when you say you couldn't write, do you mind just going into that a little bit more? What was it that they were saying?
I just couldn't follow what they needed. There was obviously points that you had to hit Harvard referencing. I was talking, or I was probably writing as I was talking, and it maybe didn't make sense. So they just kept sending it back. You're not hitting what we need. You're not hitting what you need. So yeah, but I always use that, to my clients is like, if first you don't succeed, just try again.
Do you know what? It's actually a really different skill because I'm a reasonable academic writer, but I couldn't do what you do and write a story. I can put something together that's formulated so I know what they want, but
Yeah.
I can't how authors do it like yourself. Yeah, that's to me is a mystery.
Yeah, well, again, I just wrote it from basically the heart. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but it was literally like I write it as I talk. So, but I think for the people that read it, it will be very relatable. Yeah.
So going back to the book, will there be another book?
I'm not so sure. So the book, I think there is room for an extension of it. A lot of people who have finished it have said to me, I want to know more. I've had a lot of questions about like, what were you talking about when you were talking about this? So there's definitely room for extension, but we've only been published for 3 weeks now. I think we published on the 15th of July. So we'll see how this goes. But I have really, really enjoyed the process. Really enjoyed it.
I think you've earned a holiday. That's okay.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I'm going away with a bunch of girls, and they're all saying we're bringing the book. I'm like, if I see that book on holiday,
Oh, thank you.
they're barred from bringing the book. But it's amazing to have so many people cheerleading and
Oh,
supporting
that's
it.
fantastic. That's really nice,
Um,
though, isn't it?
but
Yeah.
I do think that there will be one or two snuck in a suitcase.
Yeah. They'll just wait until you're by the pool and they'll be like, can you just sign this for me, please?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that nearly brings us to an end, Ashley. Is there anything else you want to talk about or mention before we finish?
No, I'm happy enough. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for being here. Give your book one last plug for us.
Okay, so I'll show you. So it's a stripper called Bambi. Can we see it?
We can. Yep.
Yeah. So it's available on Amazon and Waterstones and a few local bookstores in Belfast.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me, and
Thank you.
have a great holiday.
Thank you so much. Take care.